Okay. Um, First and foremost, I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Hyman. I have the pleasure and privilege of working with the Chief Rabbi Moshe Azman, as well as the Chief Rabbi's Executive Director, Chaim Klimovitsky, who's also joined us today to give us a report on what's going on the ground in Ukraine. So we're going to dive right in. As you know, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be posting this later on the Chief Rabbi's YouTube channel, as well as emailing it out to everybody so that you're able to share it with everyone. So everyone from your community, everyone from your friends, family, etc., can also hear about what's going on in Ukraine. So with that, let's jump right in. Um, the format for this particular webinar is going to be a question and answer format at first, with me interviewing essentially Rabbi Azman and Chaim. And at the end of the presentation, we will be opening the Zoom for questions that anybody has. Chief Rabbi, the first question that I need to ask is you're currently in Israel. You're meeting with members of Knesset and other Jewish leaders, giving them important updates on the war. Could you tell our supporters here today on the Zoom about some of the things that you're discussing with these Israeli leaders?
First of all, welcome everybody to Zoom to this meeting, and yes, I came now emergency for few days to Israel. First of all, few reasons we had to connect with Israel much more to Ukraine because it was few problems between Ukraine and Israel. It's connect with the Ukrainian refugees in Israel and Israel pilgrims in Ukraine and to Ukraine. And it's one reason. And second reason was, and it's now on Baruch Hashem, bless the God, the government Israel just returned the security, and it's medical certificate, security to the people, medical insurance to the Ukrainian refugees, and I thank to the Israel government for this today. And you have another few things. And I go to mass media, to the television, Israel televisions in Hebrew, Russian, and in other languages to explain them what the real situation in Ukraine, because in Israel many people think that the war is just over, because it's normal many now in television and I was shocked because I explained people that the terrible war in Ukraine continue, and all the countries and Israel as another country has to stay with Ukraine to help, to give humanitarian help, spiritual help, and another help, that's military help. I know we understand, and I understand that Israel have problem in Syria and with the Hezbollah, with Iran, and they understand. But I try to understand the members of parliament, the government, that's the ways how they can help much more to Ukrainian people that stand in the terrible situation now.
Understood. Chief Rabbi, just last week, Ukraine celebrated its Independence Day. And we, of course, hope and pray that Ukraine will be independent and peaceful very, very soon. Can you tell our friends how are the Ukrainian people doing? The real people on the ground. We're not talking about the army. We're not talking about the government. We're talking about the average person on the streets, Jewish, not Jewish. How are they feeling? What are they worried about the war continuing? What can you tell us about what they're going through right now?
First of all, it depends where they in Ukraine. It's in West Ukraine, in less the feeling less war, but in central Ukraine it's middle, and in east and south Ukraine is real near the front line it's day and night, the explosions and artillery. But for example, in Kiev, yes, I live in Kiev, and in Kiev we had a few days which was quiet. But to this night, it was about 20 missiles and Iran drones come to Kiev, and it was a very strong explosion. Was very strong. I just in Israel, but my wife and a few of my children there, they work this my volunteers. Now our command, we continue to work every day, but with this night, it was a very terrible night. As few people was killed in Kiev, and few people
Okay,
wandered.
sorry, Rabbi Azman, this was last night?
This night, yes, I put it to Twitter today. What happened in Kiev? The one rocket come to the big mall Ashan, and another rockets another it's no far from our synagogue, in another district, but it's very close. And in Kiev Oblast, Kiev region, it's no far from Anatevka. It was in this direction. But the the government, the city administration, they try to bring the normal to people, bring them to normal life. Even in night, sometimes in night we have rocket missiles. In day, people go to real life. But even sometimes a day they have their air raid. They hear a stronger raid, and the people run away to the subway or to another shelters. We don't have enough shelters in Ukraine, but to the places that can be safe for them. That's why it's depend. People understand that it's a real war, and even places that's yesterday it was quiet. For example, even Lvov, it's West Ukraine, but it was quiet. But sometimes few rockets come there and kill people and and wound people. That's why it's a war in all Ukraine. No, Ukraine, we don't have no one airport working, and because it's dangerous for people, for aircraft, for. I by myself. I come every week to the near the front line to help people, to bring the humanitarian, to see by my eyes what happened, to bring them smile, to the hopes for humanitarian aid and spiritual aid. Now, yesterday, my assistant, he's a chief rabbi chaplain of the Ukrainian army, official chaplain David Milman. He by himself went to the Donetsk Oblast. It's in the Slaviansk and Kramatorsk. It's their areas. He brought to soldiers and humanitarian aid what they need, and it's in places that the artillery fight day and night.
Understood. This is
But
obviously
I would like to add something. One good thing. It's that's there's a divine providence that in 1898 the famous Jewish sugar maker Lazar Brodsky he opened the Central Synagogue of Kiev, that's now called Brodsky Synagogue. In this synagogue, that I'm rabbi there, and we celebrated them in that day. Exactly, and after the many years, Ukrainian it's become to be a Ukrainian Independent Day, August 24. That's why, and that's the day that's Ukraine celebrated independence. That's yes. And our synagogue, we celebrated the 125th anniversary of our synagogue that become now the only synagogue. It's Jewish center. That's it's become now the center of humanitarian aid for people. That's every week thousands, no, hundreds of thousands, sometimes thousands of people, refugees. If they come to our synagogue, you can see big lines that people receive humanitarian aid parcels with the food and the medicine.
I have to tell you, Chief Rabbi, what's incredible about what you're saying to me is that you've got a synagogue that has a 125-year history. And even in the midst of a war, you're able to celebrate that sense of hope that a synagogue and Jewish life can bring to the people. I think that's absolutely incredible. And I hope that the people in Ukraine saw that and appreciated it because you're thinking not only of what we're going through today, but you're thinking ahead to say this war will ultimately end and life in Ukraine will continue as it did before in a very, very powerful way. I think that's incredible.
Yes, Ram, you are right, because our synagogue was born, I told you, in 1898, but was closed by communist regime in 1926, and it was a workers' club, a theater, and we returned. It's the synagogue through the revolution, through the Nazis regime. The key was by Nazis regime, so they made from synagogue the place for horses. And now that Ukraine receive independent, become independent. The Ukrainian government returned the synagogue in 1997, and we built it now as the center of their life. Nobody didn't expect that. For example, in the beginning of the war, every day 300-400 people from Chernihiv, from Ereso, that was bombed, and people that ran away, they didn't eat, didn't eat 1 week without electricity, without heating. We brought them with volunteers from these areas, gave them food, gave them heating, and evacuated them to outside the country. And what we do, that's this synagogue become to be a center of the saving people. That's why it will bring them humanitarian aid and spiritual aid. That's so important too.
It really is. It really is. I want to switch gears for just a second. Since you mentioned the Brodsky Synagogue, since you mentioned that it's 125 years old, this is a question that I want to ask to Chaim, the executive director of the Chief Rabbi's office. If we look back, to the time of the Holocaust, the Ukrainian people, in general, were not particularly friendly to the Jewish community, as we unfortunately very, very well know. So one of the questions that we do hear from a lot of friends and supporters, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this is why don't the Jews of Ukraine, knowing this history, but obviously comparing it to the fact that the Brodsky Synagogue today, the Ukrainian government opened it to the entire people. They wanted it to be used as a place of worship, as a place of hope. Many supporters often say, well, why don't the Jews of Ukraine simply leave? Why don't they just go to Israel, to other parts of the world? And it's a very interesting question. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this and how you would respond to those questions.
So that's a great question, Ryan, and hello to everyone. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I would like to say that today the Jewish community that's in Ukraine, they feel that they're Jewish, but they also feel that they're Ukrainian. Right? Today, there's no real division between religion and 73% of Ukrainians elected a Jewish president, and there's no real divide. Ukrainian people are especially after this terrible invasion, have all united together to help each other out. Like Rabbi Azman said, like our community, we don't focus on just helping in the humanitarian aid to Jews or non-Jews. We're helping Ukrainians. We're all in one place. We're all trying to get through the struggle. We're all trying to survive. And the people that are there now, they feel that they're part of this, whether they're fighting or whether they're nurses or whether they're working. No matter what they're doing, they all feel that the Jewish community feels that they're part of the struggle. They're part of the struggle against tyranny. They're part of the struggle of light fighting versus darkness. And they're part of the struggle of trying to build a democracy, trying to westernize themselves even more, and they really feel like those values really align deeply with a lot of our Jewish values of fighting for freedom and fighting oppression. And that's why they feel that, on a deep level. They aren't experiencing anti-Semitism today. They're living very well. They're experiencing a threat from an enemy who's coming to destroy them and just take away their land, take away their house. That's what they feel. And they're standing together with their neighbors. They're standing together with their coworkers. They're standing together in the military and the government to just fight to try to save lives and end this terrible war.
Understood. Thank you. And I think that clarifies things for a lot of people, because it is a tough question. But recognizing where Ukraine has come in the years since that terrible time for the entire Jewish people really is frankly wonderful to hear that there is that unity. Let's switch gears for a second. I wanted to talk. I actually want to ask. I want to go back to Rabbi Azman. I want to ask you a question. If you could tell our friends about the types of humanitarian aid that your office is providing. And another important question. I think Chaim alluded to it, and you may have alluded to it as well. Are you helping only people from the Jewish community or from the general Ukrainian population as well? So what types of humanitarian aid, and who is that going to?
I think Chaim will answer this. And
Okay.
we help everybody,
our
everyone. I just told that we gave it. We give it to everyone. We cannot give it a Jewish one and to not Jewish. No, give. We don't make selection. We bring obviously for Jewish people. Sure, we bring the Jewish books or Jewish prayers. But to save people, we helped a lot of hospitals. We helped a lot of we saved a lot of people from Mariupol, from Kharkov area, from another areas, and we brought a lot of water clear system, and water special system that create water from air from Israel special systems. We gave it to people. It served to the in Odessa Oblast, in Nikolaev region, in Kherson region, Kharkov region. It serves all the people, to the hospitals, to the regular people, because water, we bring light and water and life to everybody.
Understood. Fantastic. Rabbi Azman, you mentioned Mariupol. Chaim, I think you had you told me previously a story that from that area, talking a little bit about some of the humanitarian aids that you've managed to get in. Could you tell our friends a little bit about that situation and how the Chief Rabbi's office helped?
So in the beginning, we really set up an evacuation system, and going back a little bit to your question, our evacuations system that we worked with over 20 cities wasn't focused on just evacuating Jews. It was focused on evacuating anyone that needed, mainly focusing on women, children, and elderly. And Mariupol was a very difficult situation where a lot of people were stuck. One of the families we helped get out of there this was an elderly couple with their whole family of Holocaust survivors who ran away from the Nazis, into Russia or earlier in World War II, were now fleeing away. And unfortunately, the husband, who was 94 at the time, passed away. He just couldn't emotionally see that the Russian army just what they did to Mariupol, destroying the whole city, women, children, and just bombing houses. So his heart couldn't take it, and he passed when he got to Kiev. But his wife and his children, we helped them with housing, we helped with food, we helped bring them doctors to homes of elderly who can't go out. We try to bring home visits, and her nephew was captured in Mariupol in the Azovstal unit. He was captured for a few months and tortured, and now we're helping him with medical treatments. He's missing a few inches of bones from his arm. He's got other issues, and we're trying to really just help the whole family through this struggle. And we had a guest from America and who met with them as well, and he asked them the same question: why aren't you guys going to Israel? And they said, listen, this is our home, this is our land, and we want to be here, and we're going to keep fighting for it, and we're going to keep defending it.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions a little bit later about the PTSD that a lot of people, not only soldiers, but also average person, on the street, is going through. But before we get there, one of the questions that we've heard, at least here where I am in the United States, is that people don't have as easy access as they did before the war to doctors and hospitals. I believe that you've come up with a strategy, specifically using the Anatef, the refugee village, to provide an innovative way of providing medical support to the community. Could you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Anatevka is situated near Bucha and Irpin, and we have open clinic 24/7. Anyone who wants treatment can come in and get treatment. We're actually working on a pilot program with an American made machine that's on the ground that can do diagnostics and connect directly to foreign doctors as well, because of the shortage and not having enough medical staff on the ground for the issues. So this is a pilot project that now it's in its second month, and hopefully if this goes well, we're learning from it, we're getting it better into it, and hopefully this is something that we're going to try to expand to
ambulances,
and putting it on mobile ambulances.
Oh, got it. Oh, so in other words, the idea is not only to be centrally located in one area, but also to for those people who aren't able to necessarily get out, those people who aren't able to move, those people whose homes are under threat, the ambulances are potentially able to go to them. Brilliant idea. Brilliant idea.
And we help to people, wounded soldiers and wounded civilians in hospitals in Kiev and in other cities.
Wow,
You listen.
absolutely amazing.
You remember that we brought the conditioners to 16 hospitals during 2 weeks in the middle of the war. That's nothing was so hot in the last summer, and the soldiers couldn't be breathe. And I brought in this the day to Kiev hospital, and during 2 weeks, 16 hospitals, all the hospitals was just with conditions that the vibe it's helped to survive, to save people.
That's incredible, absolutely incredible. So let's since Chief Rabbi, you're talking, I want to actually ask you a question. Now, there's a video that's been going around. I'm sure that everybody on the Zoom today has seen the video of where you almost died when you were in the Kherson region, where a missile landed very, very close to you. The video is I mean, when I first saw it, I was shocked to see you jump on the ground. One of your staff or your team was jumping on top of you to try and protect you, and then everybody was running. It was really, really powerful, video. Could you tell us a little bit about why did you go to Kherson, knowing that it was such a dangerous area, knowing that the dam could collapse at any minute, knowing that the Russians were targeting the area? Why did you go there, knowing that you were going to be potentially risking your life?
I explain you. First of all, I thank the God to God. I thank him because he have another plan, and he made really miracles there to save us. And I the same question they asked me in the BBC and CNN that they asked me after this Kherson voyage. I don't know how to call it, and I explained it to it's two reasons, general reasons. First of all, I came to Kherson I come to see what people to do, to check, to speak with local people, speak with government and local authority, what the real needs, to make logistic. After this, by people, when I have many volunteers and workers, and that's continue to do. But I have to feel and to see by my eyes. That's why I came to Kherson. And second reasons, maybe it's more important. I wanted to show example. I tell the people that our Holy Torah teaches that the people now in tragedy in the war, in tragedy, I cannot sit at home. I have to come and help people. It's our obligation as Jewish people, and that's what our Torah says. And that's why I wanted to give example to another people that to know. I said that people don't stay quiet. People in Ukraine is terrible war. When people need a lot of help, people need a lot of your prayers and real help to help to save their life. People become wounded, become they lost their relatives, lost their food, what was their job, lost their homes. That's why people, it's continue, it's war will continue, and we have to. Ukrainian now stand not only for they fight not only for their own independence of our own land, and they fight for all of you, all the free world. That's why, because if no Ukraine, the Russian just was come to Europe, and the Russian television they say we would like to bomb to destroy all Europe or Britain, the United States, Canada. They say it's open. That's why thank you for you. I was in America, in Canada, in Israel, in Britain. I said first of all, thank you what you do, but please don't finish your help. And Ukraine need much more help with military help, humanitarian help, solidarity, prayers. all we need. That's why I try to do what I can.
Understood. Well, what is the situation today in Kherson? What's going on there now?
And Kherson is continuing. Every day is under fire. The Russians they fire every day to Kherson. The people killed there, and they fire without any reason. What I saw there, I didn't understand what's in it. I think it's only one reason, because they left Kherson. The Ukrainian army pushed them from Kherson. They're standing in another side of river, but they fight only to say people, okay, if you go under Russian, we'll kill you, everybody. That's without any reason. They don't have worries, and they don't. It's no army standing here. So, and the the life, regular life. I was shocked that Kherson was a trolley buses, and were in the streets, and they become bombing, and people run away. And but people and they bombing humanitarian points over there. The volunteers distribute humanitarian aid. I saw it. It's many points was special. They fired for these places. It's dangerous. It's war crime.
Oh, it really absolutely is a war crime. There's no question. Yes, Chaim.
I would like to add here, Kherson was under occupation for over 9 months. And there was the fake Russian elections that these areas, certain areas, were going to become now part of Russia, including Kherson. And then they left. That Russia, the Ukrainians pushed them back, and now in retaliation to civilians, they're destroying a city which they claimed is their own. You know what I mean? So that's how terrible this is. And then the Ukrainians, like you were asking earlier about their independence, they understand that there's not going to be any independence. There's not going to be any freedom. They're not going to be able to have normal lives. That's why they're standing, no matter how difficult it is. And you mentioned the PTSD and the medical issues, and the Jews can leave to Israel, and other people can leave to other places. But the people who are there today, they're very resilient people, and they're going to fight this evil head on. That's really just to add in a little bit.
Tremendous, absolutely tremendous. So one of the things, I think this is actually a very interesting place to change directions just a little bit. We've been talking about the humanitarian aid that has been so crucial and so valuable for the people of Ukraine. So I'd like to switch for a moment to look at the spiritual sustenance that the chief rabbi and his office is providing to the Jewish community in Ukraine. But I want to ask to start off with a question, and that is, why Chief Rabbi? I'll ask it to you. Why is it so important to provide spiritual support, spiritual sustenance to people now? Surely we should be focusing as much as possible on the humanitarian aid that your office is providing. Why the focus as well on the spiritual side of things?
First of all, one of the main aims of Russian intervention in Russian aggression, Russian forces, they make a spiritual victory, while they special target to the infrastructure, civil infrastructure, that people will sit without water, without canalization, without electricity, in the winter without heating. And the people, let's give up, and they say, okay, we can do it, we cannot do it. And the people don't see the light in the end. And that's why in the beginning of the war I saw it. That's why maybe people are sure saw my video with Sefer Torah, with Scroll of Torah, and hundreds of million people all over the world. So it's why I said it from my heart. We was in Anatevka at the time under the bombing day and night, and with my children, grandchildren, and hundreds of refugees. We didn't know how to evacuate, if it's possible to evacuate people. And after this, I become, the people. Sometimes tens and hundreds of thousands Ukrainian people watch me, and sometimes millions of people watch me in my social media. And I saw that people need a hope, to bring the hope to light to all world. I make an interview to world mass media, because I think it's so important to bring the truth, because Russian propaganda said a lot of lie to all the world, and that's why I try to bring the truth what happened in Ukraine. Inside Ukraine, people they know what happened really in Ukraine. They know the truth. They need a good word. They need light. They need hope. They need shine. They need the sunshine. That's why I bring them the good messages. People will be okay in the world. Why I really believe it. But people need it. I saw it, as spiritual aid. Russians, they don't have the spiritual Russian soldiers, for example, don't have spiritual aim. They come to another land, not their land. Because their government decided to send it. They don't know what they put on the television, making the clear with their minds. I don't know how to say in English. To make propaganda, but they really don't know why they come. The Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian soldiers, they understood that they were fighting for their independence, for their families, for their homes. They doesn't want to be slaves to Russians. That was to be free people. That's it. That's different. That's why they human. The Russians, they are, as you see all the world. So that's what happened in Bucha, Irpin, Izum, Mariupol. They real war crimes Russia did. But Ukrainian people, they have a human. That's why it's, I think, the most all the world understand it. And I said to people, see who is friends of Russia, who is partners of Russia, the Iran regime and North Korea and Syria and Belarus. You understand what's the regimes. That's why the rest of the world stand for Ukraine.
Well, I think you put that very, very well. When you look at who their friends are, they say, you judge people by who their friends are. That's a really interesting point. One of the things we've heard, and I'm not sure if it's true. I want to ask if it's true. Obviously we know this for a fact that there are Jews who have been killed, unfortunately, in the war, whether as soldiers or as civilians. And again, this is the part where I want to check with you. I want to be sure if this is the case, that we heard that the law in Ukraine, when the war first broke out, was in order to deal with the number of unfortunately dead bodies, the Ukrainian government was requiring that all bodies be cremated, which is obviously a problem for Jews, and the way we typically do our thing. How Rabbi Azman, how have you dealt with that? Have you managed to deal with it on a regular basis, or is it something that is still happening, unfortunately, in the Jewish community as well?
No. We have if the people, the Jewish people, I don't know, another people, Jewish community, we buried the bodies of soldiers. Right. And that's the government give it. We didn't have problems. That's it. Maybe
fantastic.
From Russian side they had the problems, but Ukrainians said no, it's okay. I have I told I have the chaplain that the chief of army, and the General Zaluzhny by himself asked me to give a Jewish chaplain, David Milman. He have another chaplains, but they do what they need, that the Jewish soldiers need. And I didn't hear it till now that was a problem. That's it. I don't know.
That's fantastic to hear, because
if somebody knows of the problem, please tell us. We'll do immediately.
Amazing to hear. Because we were hearing rumors, unfortunately, in the United States that things were going on, and that, by the way, is why these Zoom updates are so important, so that we can get the truth out, that people understand exactly what's going on, to the people of Ukraine, and of course the Jewish community in Ukraine as well.
Brian, so I want to add in a little bit, sure. So on top of that, recently there were many chaplains who went through a course in our synagogue, non-Jewish chaplains as well, went through a course in our synagogue. What are the requirements for the Jewish soldiers, to try to provide to them exactly what they need to get a deep understanding. So they are really working with different cultures and different religions, different backgrounds, to try to make them feel as comfortable as they can in this difficult time as well.
Got it. So Chaim, let me ask you a question then. One of the things, obviously, as we all know, the Rosh Hashanah, the high holy days, are fast approaching, coming up on September 15th. Could you tell us, Chaim, what the Chief Rabbi's team has been working on specifically for this time of the year for the Jewish community in Ukraine to give them that spiritual sustenance that they so desperately need?
What we've been trying to work on is to set up safe ways of people to come to areas for prayer. From if they're in cities where there isn't going to be a service, to bring them in and set them up so they can come to this very, our most holy days to come and pray. We're working on delivering food, kits, Rosh Hashanah kits to the elderly who won't be able to make it. And the Ukrainian Jewish community is a very traditional community. So even if they're not going to shul, to synagogue the whole year, they are going to come for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So we want to bring that together and have shared meals and to share stories. People who haven't seen each other for months, to bring them all together in Anatevka and in Kiev and other areas to try to make that happen as much as possible. Going back to your earlier question, right, that people are really thriving for that spiritual support, that believe that tomorrow is going to be a better day, that God built this world, and ultimately that light will overcome darkness, and there will be a way out of this tyranny, and that everything will come better. When you don't know what the economy is going to be like, if there's jobs, people are losing their lives, you're always hearing about tragedy, you're living in all this difficultness that's on your shoulders, to come and be part of the community, part of the services, uplifted, to get the beliefs, to remember that we've been through many difficult times, but if we will stay together, we will get through this, and to pray together. And that's really what we're working on, to get that to be safe, and bringing people together for those, and setting up the meals, setting up prayers, bringing in special chazanim to really get them deeply moved emotionally, and all that together we're trying to work on in this time, including having enough kosher food for the holidays, bringing in that as well, which is also a logistical difficulty in solving all these different issues, is what we're trying to do now. There's actually a team of rabbis that flew in from Israel that are now in Ukraine working on providing additional kosher food lines for the holiday.
That's absolutely incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And again, it certainly sounds like this is quite a tremendous operation. So I'm going to assume that there's support, financial support in particular, that's needed for this very, very important endeavor. Chaim, how can people, whether the people on this call right now, or people who watch the call later, how can they respond and help in a very, very practical way to ensure that the Ukrainian Jewish community is able to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the high holy days, the most important time in the Jewish year, with dignity? What's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way is to go to officeofchiefrabbi.org/donate. And if you can help, we really appreciate it. And please, when you donate, there's going to be a question if you want to do it in honor of or in memory of. Please, if you would like the rabbi to pray for a loved one, if you would like, the community to add that into a prayer, please put that information in as well. And all donations are greatly appreciated. Thank you, Ryan. Actually put the link into the Zoom. It's Office of the Chief Rabbi /Rosh Hashanah. Office of the Chief Rabbi.org /Rosh Hashanah. Thank you, Ryan.
Not a problem, not a problem. And, of course, we certainly don't want to put anybody under pressure, but the Ukrainian Jewish community is under pressure, and we know that they can certainly use the help. There's no question about that. So, this wasn't the purpose of this, but hopefully people on the call will be able to, at the very least, share the link with people. Let's get the word out so that we can really support what's going on in Ukraine. Before we open the Zoom call to any additional questions that other people may have, Rabbi Azman, I want to ask not really a question. I want to ask for a blessing from you. As we end today's updates, could you really give, I guess, a short bracha, a short blessing for our audience for a sweet, healthy, and happy New Year, a peaceful New Year, really a true Shana Tova message for the Jewish community of Ukraine and indeed all of the Ukrainian people?
The last year, I blows the shofar to the chief of Ukrainian army, Chief General Zaluzhny. He personally, I said this voice of shofar. When the Jewish kings come to the war and won the war. That's why Baruch Hashem, bless the God. The Ukrainians now go to the forward. And that's why I bless. I think we as a Jewish people, we have obligation from the God to keep to people to help people. That's why I'll in a Sunday, this Sunday. Sunday, Monday. It will be Chayalul. It's a day of the birthday of Baal Shem Tov, the holy guy that's founded the Hasidic movement, and our first Lubavitch Rebbe. They buried in Ukraine, and I go there, and all the day I will be. My plan is go there to pray to people, and that's why from there I want to be like to people would like to join us. The bless there. Let's will come. We'll make. I would like to organize maybe something to connect. No, maybe Zoom, maybe
Got
a
it.
Twitter platform maybe as well. And I would like to bless everybody that Happy New Year. The Mashiach will come, Messiah will come, and will be real peace in all the world.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Before we conclude, we certainly want to open up the floor to any questions. If anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. Preferably, if you can put your cameras on as well, that would be great. But any questions that you have for either the Chief Rabbi or for Chaim, we're certainly we would love to hear from you. No takers?
Okay,
I see, Mel. I see you raised your hand. If you can please unmute and ask your question.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. It's great to hear what you guys are doing, helping both Jewish people and non-Jewish people. My question was like, particularly at the start of the war, there was a lot of propaganda about Ukraine essentially being a Nazi country, and I wondered how you'd sort of combated that, and how it sort of made things more complicated for you, because obviously that's not the case, and it was a lie, but I think a lot of people in the West got sucked in by that lie. So I was sort of interested to hear how you thought that was going, given the narrative.
yes.
So Rabbi Azman, go.
Yes, thank you for question. I guess first question that's all the mass media in the world they ask me about that Russian forces come to make identification in Ukrainian. But I answered this very simple. We didn't have Nazis. We did not have in Ukraine. We were in Ukrainian before the war. This independent country, free country, democratic country, free of speech, free of press, free of religion. We all the nations was lived quiet and with the friendly. All the religions, all the nationalities in Ukraine. Nobody didn't ask to come to identificate Ukraine. So it's opposite, have to identificate Russia. That people said that World War II, the World War II, I explained people that World War II, yes, was the Ukrainians that want to collaborate with Nazis as in other nations in Europe, but 7 million Ukrainians fighting against Hitler and against 2,500 people in Ukrainian people Yad Vashem, the Museum Yad Vashem in Jerusalem gave an award that's the people right man they saved many Jewish people in the World War II. That's why. But it's so. In Ukrainian, that's the Ukrainian people elected the Jewish president. 73% of the Ukraine elected him, and now it's about more than 90% for him. And the Ukrainian two nationalist parties that didn't elect it into parliament, even the 3% they didn't have in elections. That's why we didn't have this problem. The Russia have to unificate themselves. I was born in Russia. I was a Soviet Union, but what I see here is, in Ukraine and what's happened here, what they do in Ukraine, it's terrible.
And Mel, just to add a little bit, that propaganda does cause a lot of difficulty, right? That's why the chief rabbi not only is defending and fighting against that propaganda in Ukraine, with whether it's on news or media or whatever, he's actually going to America, speaking to Americans, whether it's public talks or whether it's on the news or meeting with American leaders and explaining that all that is utter propaganda that is being used for an excuse for this terrible attack that happened.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mike, go ahead.
Hello, Rabbi. A few years ago, we met in Kiev at the main synagogue. Probably don't remember, which is fine. I'm a Ukrainian American. I live in Los Angeles. I definitely reached out to you and supported you guys in the beginning of the war. And I'm just wanted to find out right now, watching American social media. That's pretty much what I see. I cannot read Ukrainian or anything like that, or Russian. I speak it. That's about it. And what I'm trying to figure out is I'm starting to see a lot of support in the US dwindling, and it's dwindling fast. I'm seeing headlines like, Zelensky will not hold elections or something unless US pays for it. I'm seeing a lot of negative reporting going on in the United States. How is that impacting the work you're doing, and how's that impacting Ukraine overall in this war? Are you still seeing the same support on your side from America as you did in the beginning of the war? I know there's been military advances, and I know they're releasing more equipment and stuff, and it seems like there's more fighting going on. I'm not understanding how come the American people believe that there's troubles in Ukraine. Also, I'm noticing, and I'm watching a lot of social media, that's what I do for a living. I'm noticing that Zelensky is jailing a lot of people, so for corruption. So if you can maybe dive into a little bit deep of how you see American support, what's going on with corruption in Ukraine, and do you see how there's a possibility to end this war? Thank you so much. I have about 20 questions in one. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Mike, if I can answer your question, because I was born in America, and I moved to Ukraine a few years ago, and I got the mix of both, a little bit of both cultures, and I would like to tell you, like, that really scares us as well, what you're saying, and we're worried about it. But at the same time, we're still trying to build that message. And maybe if you know this, maybe you can give us some advice. Maybe after the call we can get in touch. But really, like, we're recently in America, and we've done many public talks, and really getting into this and trying, because what I feel is a lot of the Americans are getting those small news bites, whether it's in social media or somewhere else. They're good, they're bad. This is the war. This is what we do. No one is really going in and explaining the story, giving a voice to the people, right? There's leaders, and they're figuring their thing out, but no one is explaining to the people what's really going on. And that really pains me, because what I feel from the Ukrainian people is that they're fighting against tyranny. They're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for their land, for their nationality, whatever that means. They're still trying to figure out what all that means. They're trying to fight corruption. They're trying to westernize, right? And all those values that they're fighting for, right? That freedom, that democracy, fighting against tyranny, that those values are what America's all about, right? America was built on everyone who came to America left tyranny, right? They fought against tyranny for their independence, and all of the immigrants that came to America left a bad tyrannical. Something was wrong. That's why they came to build a better future. And what Ukraine is trying to do is build that better future. So on a deep level, right? Not down to the governments, right? The Ukrainian people and the American people should be allied in this, right? That we're trying to bring the democracy, freedom, and respect to people and human life, valuing these core values are allied, and that's the messaging that we're trying to get across and bringing that through. We're having Zooms with Jewish leaders and other religious leaders, trying to work on interfaith to bring those values to the community so people can really understand what this is about on a core level. And really, we're trying to also invite as much people as we can to come, whether they're in business, whatever industry they're in, to come, because what's going to ultimately help Ukraine get out of corruption and westernize is the Western world working with them, right? And that's really what's going to change it. I work in export for Ukraine furniture, and what westernized Ukrainian manufacturing was IKEA coming into the market, and making the factories work a certain, Western way. The more of that happens, the more of these bridges that we as people can build, not as governments, but as regular people are trying to build these bridges. That's really how people can connect to the issue on a deeper level, how people can help go through this struggle as well. And I think if we can ignite such a thing and grow it and build it, I think that's really ultimately what's going to help, one, westernize Ukraine, and two, really win this, because people really understand what's going on, and that support won't just be like, okay, this is an issue that I'm thinking about that's happening on the other side of the world, I'm not connected to it. But no, maybe it is happening on the other side of the world. The struggle that the Ukrainian people are going through and the values that they're trying to fight for are the same values that America was built
on. I definitely understand, and I'd like to ask you a follow-up question. President Biden is constantly in the news, receiving bribes from Ukraine. It's very difficult. As you know, we have GOP and we have the left here in the United States. And the issue that I'm seeing is, the support for Biden is dwindling. There's a lot of news that is coming out that he's receiving bribes from Ukraine. How do you guys see the impact on actual Ukraine? Like, the people of the United States don't support corruption. And it seems like Biden's in the middle of it.
Listen, we're not political figures. We're not governments. We're not a politics. We're just trying to help on the human side and just share. What we're trying to do is share the Ukrainian story and the voice in America and in other places around the world, so people can really understand on a deeper level. Because once again, what happens between governments is it's on its own level. We're not part of those structures, right? At the same time, people can work, right? Businesses can work, banks can connect, things can happen, bridges can be built on our level. That's what we can do, right? We can't change a decision that a government will do or not do. That's not something in our hands. We have one day in elections, we can do something or not. But what we could do every day is going on these Zooms, supporting organizations that are doing good work, spreading these ideas. If you work in the social media sphere, maybe we could talk after this call and really see how could we build better bridges between the American people and the Ukrainian people. Because the American people don't want corruption. They don't want corruption. And the Ukrainian people don't want corruption, right? There's issues in culture and in this, and there's many things, but ultimately the people risking their lives and staying in Ukraine today want a free Ukraine without corruption, where they can live their lives and support their families and pursue their careers, and their kids can go to school. And that's really what we're trying to do. How can we build those personal bridges, whether it's personal, whether it's leaders, whether it's business, whether it's humanitarian, to build those bridges out? That's really what we can do, right? There's things that are out of our control. We cannot, like Rabbi Azman's in Israel, he can't change Israeli policy, but he can come and give the voice to the Jewish people and to the Ukrainian people. What's going on the ground? What do they need? Maybe Israel, okay, this they can't do. Maybe they can do that, or maybe they can do, right? That's really what we're trying to do, is to give those voices and to share those stories. Because once people really understand what this is about, if you're going to come to Kiev and see and talk to the people why they're there, you'll get it, right? And in the beginning, many, many people visited. And today, much, much less people are visiting. And that really, pains us. And we're trying to, if someone wants, please reach out to our office. We'll try to arrange things to make connections. But really, that's what we're trying to do, to build these bridges. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to do that through the Jewish community, to build bridges between Jewish organizations in Ukraine, Jewish organizations in America, so they can be united. Because as Ukraine is joining the West, it's not just the governments joining, it's the peoples joining, the cultures, the mentalities. How could we work together? And that's what we're trying to do. We can only change what we can. And this is what we're trying to do, parallel in trying to do the humanitarian aid and do everything else. We're trying to do all this together. So, Mike, once again, I would love to continue this conversation. Please reach out through our website, and I would love to continue this deeper if you're interested.
So, Chaim, I actually already shared your contact details with Mike in the private chat. But I've noticed the time. We do need to be respectful of everybody's time. We did advertise that this was going to end at about 12:50 Eastern time. So I do want to be respectful. That being said, I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're going to be sending out this recording, which we really want to encourage you. Please share with your family and friends so they too can learn, more about what the situation is on the ground in Ukraine, directly from people who are on the ground in Ukraine, including the chief rabbi. We will be hosting another webinar on Wednesday, September 20th. At 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Kiev time. Please watch your email for information to register for the next update. Unfortunately, we know there's going to be more information that's going to be coming out of Ukraine, and we want to be able to give you an update so that you too can share it with as many people as possible so they're aware of what's going on. And please don't forget, you can support the Chief Rabbi's work by going to officeofchiefrabbi.org/Rosh Hashanah, officeofchiefrabbi.org/Rosh Hashanah. Again, it's the link is in the chat as well. There's an H at the end. Please don't forget that. And we really want to thank you for your support, your kindness, and your friendship. We want to wish everybody a Shana Tova, and may we see a speedy end to this war and a return to peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.